Honorable Prime Minister, members of your cabinet, and good afternoon to my colleagues from the Nevis Island Administration. Good afternoon to members of the press. I confess that this opportunity to engage in dialogue, our cabinet at the island level with the national cabinet, is one that I cherish and one that I think is very important. Nothing in this world is ever achieved without the ability to communicate. And the dialogue is very important. When there are problems, dialogue is important. And even in good times, dialogue is important. Even in marriages, dialogue is important. In all relationships, dialogue is important. And so for us, we are engaged now in some discussions. I reflect, members of the press, that the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Drew, would have afforded me an audience with him in the very first week, in fact, in the early days of the first week that he took office as Prime Minister. And it was at that meeting that he and I canvassed the position that there was a need for there to be greater dialogue, greater cooperation between the island of Nevis and the island of St. Kitts, and between the Nevis Island Administration and the federal administration. I believe that if we are fair, we will conclude that the relationship thus far has worked well, and the reason behind the need for continued dialogue is that we want it to work even better. We have a packed agenda today with a number of matters that are important to the island of Nevis, to the island of St. Kitts, but perhaps more importantly to the Federation that we all call home. And I am satisfied that with the entire cabinet team here from the island of Nevis, and I believe most of the team, nearly all of the team from St. Kitts, that we should be able to get through and to have an understanding of some of the issues, and certainly to have a roadmap as to where we are going. This, if my memory serves, is the second of this joint undertaking. The first one was in Nevis, one is now here in St. Kitts, and I believe that we have committed to having these engagements on a regular basis. Again, for me, communication, dialogue, discussion is always the best way. The ability to sit with each other as brothers and sisters and to discuss even thorny issues and difficult issues, and to find middle ground where possible. I think that has to be the model now for St. Kitts and Nevis going forward. It is only through that kind of undertaking can we manage in this very difficult global environment that we face. We cannot have strife at home in circumstances where the global environment demands that we have unity, not only at home, that is domestically, but also regionally. We have to find common ground, and we have to work together. Now, I will end only with a reflection that prior to coming here, I think most of our colleagues would have been at a session, a very important high-level session at the Marriott involving the Green Climate Fund. And one of the recurring themes there was that in relation to renewable energy and the advancement in particular of our geothermal energy prospects, that the island of Nevis and the island of St. Kitts, the federal government and the NIA, the Premier and the Prime Minister, the Leader of the Opposition and the Prime Minister, that we are together. And I believe that if we can bring that project, and I'm convinced that we can, to the fore for the benefit of all of our people, it would be a shining example of what cooperation can achieve. I am not unmindful of the difficulties that these two islands have had over our history. But while we cannot rewrite history, we can certainly chart a course for our future. And we are here today as an example of that engagement that is important if we are to chart that course. So, Prime Minister, I want to thank you for the opportunity. And colleagues, I'm hopeful that we can have free, frank, and open discussions as we chart the way forward for both of our islands and this wonderful federation that we are privileged to call our home. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Premier. And indeed, an opening that, of course, is filled with substance for reflection by all of us who are here. Let me recognize you, of course, in your capacity as Premier of Nevis, but you also wear the hat of leader of the opposition. Quite unique, of course, but we are a federation. I want to recognize all the members from the federal cabinet who are here and to apologize for our senior minister, foreign minister, the Right Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas, who is away in the Republic of China, Taiwan at this moment, carrying out national business with a delegation. And of course, he would have wanted to be here as well. I want to recognize members from the Nevis Island Assembly who are here with us as well. Let me say that it's important that the Federation understands, people on Nevis, people on St. Kitts, that we understand that it is important that there be levels of cooperation. It is obvious that there would always be some level of political differences, but we don't always have to disagree on everything. There are some things that really can bring us together as a people. We decided to come together on the issue of crime and violence, and you saw how the Nevis Island Assembly participated, how the leadership in Nevis participated, because we decided we needed to have an all-of-society approach to deal with the matter. We have had very positive results, and I keep saying that all of us share in those results because all of us participated. That is an example of what we can achieve if we decide to work together. Again, we have decided to work together on the issue of geothermal, as was referred to by Premier Brantley. The geothermal has the potential to transform St. Kitts and Nevis. And we are not just saying that. If you look at the IMF analysis of the situation in 2023, you'd recognize that they're saying that this can transform us so much that we can totally move away from CBI if we were to choose to. And we have seen the challenges that we have had with the CBI over and over again, that we have had to confront, dealing with the issues that are raised, and have dialogues after dialogues with our international partners to assure them how serious we are with making sure that their interests are also represented in our CBI program. However, I've always spoken about diversification, and we call it SEED. How do we diversify the economy so that we no longer depend so heavily on the CBI? Though the CBI is very important, and we have to always remember that. It is not to discard it, but to make sure that our economy is so diversified that our vulnerabilities are decreased and our resilience is increased. That is very, very important. And so the geothermal and renewable energy is not just a matter of climate, it is a matter of economic transformation, so that we can get to our sustainable island state, which means energy available at cheap cost, available 24/7, water available 24/7, food is grown sufficiently to satisfy our people here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And with that, the economic transformation in attracting new industry, and to reach the point where we can actually export energy, which is a real thing. This is not a pie in the sky, it is a real thing. And to say the reason why the world is rallying with us, the world is rallying with St. Kitts and Nevis. They want this project to happen for multiple reasons. One, that political cooperation can bring about transformation. Two, that climate adjusting or addressing the climate issues is not just about climate for climate's sake, but it can actually be opportunities to transform countries economically. And three, that climate can actually be in tandem with other strategies that all can work in unison. So in a sense, this is being championed not just by us, but the world. As the head of the GCF said this morning, She does not go to regional meetings, but she has chosen to come to this one, and specifically St. Kitts and Nevis, and specifically she wants to visit the geothermal project in Nevis because she wants to see it come to fruition. And therefore, it is incumbent upon us that if the world is rallying for us and see how we can transform ourselves and become a better state from the perspective of energy and economic transformation and so forth, why shouldn't we want that for ourselves? We have to want it first for ourselves to rally the rest of our partners to want it for us as well. And I say that this is an opportunity for us to continue to work together. As was mentioned, as the Premier mentioned, we have a packed schedule, number of things, critical things to discuss that are of mutual interest and some issues to resolve as well, so that we can get on with the business of the Federation. There are challenges, but we are, of course, putting ourselves in a position to deal with those challenges. And I finally say that us cooperating on this multiple issues, multiple challenges, multiple opportunities is an example of really how the Federation should always seek to function. There are differences and there will always be differences, but as much as there are differences, there are things that bring us together, and those things should also be exploited to our advantage.